Welcome to the Comm 498 show. I'm Tony Palmeri from the Communication Studies program at the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh. Recently, I watched a feature-length film that just came out. It's called Sight. It's kind of like a science fiction thriller. I enjoyed it very much, and I'm very happy to say that I have with me today, really excited about this, the producer of the film Sight, and his name is Ben Cooke. Ben, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, let me say a little bit about Ben. He graduated from UW Oshkosh. His major was radio, TV, film back in the year 2000. He was a minor in psychology. After graduating, he went to work in the entertainment industry in Los Angeles before venturing into public relations as a founder and partner in a PR firm. Then later as a consultant, he worked with some notable clients. Get some of the clients that Ben has worked with: NASA, Montel Williams, Figs, Hyperloop TT, and Theragun. Now, during the COVID era, he was recruited by his longtime friend and filmmaker, Jason Eric Perlman, to produce the science fiction thriller Sight, which was released in theaters and video on demand on August 8th. And like I said, I just recently watched it on Amazon Prime, found it a very enjoyable film. And, Ben, I got to tell you, I thought that I had not heard of Jason Eric Perlman before this, and I understand that he was the screenwriter, the director. It is a very intelligent script. So tell us a little bit. Let's start off with the film. How did you become a producer of a film?
Yeah, sure. So as you pointed out, after graduating from Oshkosh in 2000, I basically packed my car up 6 months later and drove out here to Los Angeles seeking fame and glory, and ended up working on a lot of student films, smaller budget stuff. There was a pathway for me for a little bit as a camera assistant in the camera departments on various productions, and I had worked with Jason, who was a grad student here at USC. We're about the same age on a documentary thesis project. That director went on to do a lot of interesting documentaries. One on Clive Davis. He's the creative director now for like all of the Coachella streaming every year, which is widely watched. And then Jason, who produced that, worked on many things as an editor, writer, director. We just became real good friends. And he kind of continued in that path of filmmaking, editing, etc., at different levels. And I, went into public relations. Flash forward, I don't know, 15 years later or so, he presents me with this screenplay. I had gotten back into writing myself after kind of navigating through post-college 20s and 30s in Southern California, which can be challenging for some anyway.
Sure.
And I just loved the script. It was my kind of story. It was sort of a mind-bending take on kind of why we mistreat each other.
Yeah.
And I'm like, none of the characters are very sort of quote unquote likable, but it had this quality to it that was saying something in a thrilling way. Reminded me of films like Jacob's Ladder, back from the early 90s, which we don't get a lot of that anymore. And it was a unique spin, I thought, on basically kind of a take on reincarnation combined with quantum physics, right?
Yeah, the subtitle is "The Past is Present."
Yeah.
And it was very philosophical. I got to tell you, Ben, that when I put the film on and in the opening credits, when I saw it came up produced by Benjamin Cooke, I felt this like rush of Titan pride
Oh,
at that
thank you.
moment.
I realized I didn't actually answer your question, so
No,
forgive
no,
me
no, no,
for
no,
that.
no. But actually, before we get back to your answer to that, people are confused, myself included. What does the producer of a film actually do?
Right.
I mean, do you raise money? Do you give money? Do you negotiate with the mob, right? Is it like one of those Godfather type of things? Like, what does the producer actually do?
Well, let's answer all these questions. So, in this journey of public relations and entrepreneurship, running my own businesses, etc., Jason came back to me after I liked the script. He's like, "Why don't you produce this with me?" And I was honestly kind of like, "Why the hell would you want me to do that? I hadn't really been in entertainment for a number of years. I mean, I sort of had been, right? I worked in a lot of television stuff, and I always likened my approach to PR anyway as that of a producer or a storyteller.
Sure.
There's a lot of sort of similarities in how you um, get a story into the mass media. Uh, you have a script, you've got your casting, you've got ways to distribute this out into the world. And so he was basically like, you understand film, you understand entrepreneurship, marketing, public relations. You're well suited for this. I'm like, all right, fine. And as a producer, then, and there was basically three of us, Jason included. Our job is to do whatever it takes to bring the vision to the screen.
Hmm.
So that's financing, that's building a team around to attract financiers so that they know we can execute on our script. um, once we did get financing, it became a state by state sort of approach to this Venn diagram of tax incentive, location, and local resources in terms of crew, rental houses, that sort of thing.
And I read at the end of the film, this was recorded in or filmed, excuse me, in North Carolina.
Correct. So I had family on the western side of the state for many, many, many years, and I'd always heard about their film industry.
Hmm.
Uh, they had recently improved their tax incentive structure, so we went and they kind of rolled the red carpet out for us in Charlotte, North Carolina, and took us around of like with a location scout to find the places we needed to film. And that was when we did that. And we had looked at several states before that, and they were sending us pictures of like, here's the locations we need, right? We need sort of this really, we need some type of haunting building to stand in for this government facility, right? And we found it in North Carolina.
Was that in Charlotte?
That was about an hour east of Charlotte in a small town called Baden.
Okay.
And then going the other way west in Shelby, North Carolina, we found sort of the facade for this prison camp from World War II. And as a result, it all sort of lined up. And we went to work putting together schedules and kind of finding a niche in between other productions, because there was not a ton of crew there, so we had to be strategic in when we were landing. And ended up we were filming there in July and August, which I would not recommend, as it is very hot and very humid.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
but we got it done, and yeah, so a lot of paperwork, dealing with unions, dealing with
Yeah.
talent reps. My partner Kelly Hayes, who's also from Wisconsin, he went to Stevens Point. was excellent at finding us our talent.
Hmm.
And we're very, very pleased, particularly with what we call our top four. Almost the entire cast is great, but we really needed to nail the role of Neil, Garrison, Elena, and Naomi. And
Well,
we
I
felt we
got to
did.
say, I was impressed by the four main actors. So Jake McLaughlin, who was in, I think he was in a show called Quantico on TV,
He
I
was in
believe.
Quantico. Yeah. And now he's in a show. He right after we got done filming, he went over to a show with our production designer called Will Trent, which
Okay.
is a main, it's a primetime weekly show on ABC. And I
Hmm.
think they're just beginning to start filming their third season.
And then the other male lead is Theo Rossi, who I've been a fan of since he was on Sons of Anarchy, I know more than 10 years ago. He is very intense. I mean, in fact, I think that when Theo is on screen in this film, he really takes control of his scenes. To me, he is like a young Pacino, something like that, right? Just that kind of intensity. He's kind of frightening in a way.
Gravitas.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. He's
And
got
then the
that
two female
gravitas.
leads, Ariel Kebbel, who plays, what's Jake's character's name?
Neil.
Neil. So Ariel Kebbel plays the spouse of Neil, and Miki Ishikawa, is that how she says
Mm.
it?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, she's a journalist in the film, and she's great also. So the top four really carry this film very well. And then there's also a little boy in the film who, is going blind as the film goes on. I thought that little boy is really talented also. What's his name?
Carson Minier. He was fantastic, and he's grown up a little bit since then. But
Well, yeah, and in fact, because you told me before we hit record here that the filming started in 2022,
yeah,
but this project has actually been in the works for longer than that. Tell us about that. Like what was the inception of this, and then is it common for it to take 3 years to do a film like this?
it can be. Yeah, I mean, depending on what level you're at. So we're obviously independent. We're very independent. We were fortunate enough to find a financier who believed in the script. If your definition of luck is preparedness, meaning opportunity, that was us. Like, we had a great pitch deck together. We had the financials in order. We had a budget. We had a great casting director uh, on board with us who had done like the Conjuring films and Aquaman, some really big movies, uh,
Wow.
particularly in our genre. And you know, we got that ready to go. I think that was in 2021 when we were putting the financing paperwork together. Once that all hit, we did sort of a quick R&D, excuse me, R&D on our visual effects. We wanted something that was a little bit unique, and you know, the signature sort of visual effect are like faces changing and these environments
Yeah.
changing as these characters are hallucinating. And we wanted it to look very, very different from what people maybe have seen before. And then we went, as I mentioned, sort of state by state to figure all that out. And that all has to line up with crew availability, with talent availability. Um, we were really still in the R&D on figuring out our visual effects a few weeks before we started filming, and we found a visual effects house that basically worked with us to create this recipe on set that we could do. We were getting all kinds of pitches of like, oh, you have to bring all your cast to our studio here and we have to do 3D scans. And
Mm.
we basically did our version of it because 5 million sounds like a lot of money, but to
Yeah.
make a movie, it's not. So we filmed that. We had to figure out how to film the stuff we couldn't get. So like working with kids, for example, they have a very strict cutoff time. And
Hmm.
if you're running behind at all, then that's too bad. You're not going to get that day. Um, and I would like to point out that having worked with a number of startups over the years, kind of from inception to some of them being even publicly traded now, um, a lot of them out of Silicon Valley here in Los Angeles. This was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Really?
The 5 weeks we spent filming in North Carolina were like a year of a startup jammed into 5 weeks.
Wow.
The amount of money we spent, the amount of work we had to do, building of sets, signing this, dealing with that. It's just a constant obstacle course. And it's exhausting. You're away from your family.
Oh yeah.
It's quite trying. But
How do you keep the cast and crew motivated? I mean, it was that 5 weeks of intensity, right? But we're talking about a multiple year project.
yeah.
How do you keep everyone motivated to go on with this?
Well, it comes down to the me and my two partners moving this project forward. I just pushing the boulder up the hill, right?
Yeah.
And the cast has been great because they responded to the script. They virtually everyone who joined in a major role on this loved what we were saying with this story, and they believed in it. So they've been helping us in promoting it. Ariel and Theo and Mickey in particular. They've got pretty wide followings on social media. They've been jumping in there with us. Um, the the crew, when you're on a hot set, things are changing and people are getting frustrated almost every day. I
Yeah.
would say one of my jobs almost every morning was, and it wasn't always morning because you'd have different shooting schedules. We're shooting at night, sometimes it's not till the afternoon, going into every department and just sort of having a therapy session.
See,
And
I figured that.
I, I mean, to me, it all comes down to communication,
Yeah.
um, which is why I think this is kind of exciting to speak with you, because people just want to be heard,
Yeah.
and they have their own frustrations. They have their own personal lives. They're solving their own problems to help us get this production going, whether it's getting costumes or building sets or just running electricity to turn the lights on. It's a lot of work.
Well, I got to tell you, Ben, another thing I found very impressive about this production, and I discovered this over the weekend just doing a little bit of research. As you know, the script deals with basically China, right? There are ch scenes of it's World War II era, right?
Yep.
And so you've got Asian characters, and I saw a podcast with Jason where he was talking about that they did what's called a sensitivity reading.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to make sure that they got the Asian characters correct. I don't know if it's the norm in Hollywood films to go that extra level.
I don't know that it is either, and this is something that I personally fought for. Um, so
Good.
while we were, first of all, when I read the script, I had never heard of Unit 731, and I don't know that most people have. Most people
Nope.
I speak to in America, in particular, have never heard of this,
I
and it
never had.
is quite well studied in Asia. It's kind of considered the Auschwitz of Asia, and
Really?
yeah, um, it set the groundwork for things like, once the U.S. got in there, from what I understand, that's basically the work that they took from that turned into Agent Orange for Vietnam. Um, really, really bad stuff. So, here we are basically a bunch of Caucasian middle-aged men. And we're in this very different time now where care needs to be taken when you're depicting other cultures, when you're depicting other people other than yourself. I work with a lot of authors in public relations, et cetera, and I'd come across this concept of sensitivity editing or sensitivity reading.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to work finding somebody that could read our script and sort of help us through any psychological blind spots we might be having in depicting not only Asians, but other cultures different from ourselves. And we just wanted to take as much care with that as possible. It's a very real and sensitive thing. It can be easily sort of criticized as being
Politically
exploitative,
correct.
or on the negative side, we could be accused of exploiting this for
Right.
thrills. Now, and you know what, some people have, and that's their right to do that. I
Mm-hmm.
I like to think of the story as showing audiences in the Western world a part of history that they probably don't know about through a character who, you know, I wouldn't call him a very sort of aware person beyond his own small town world, right? And
Mm-hmm.
to be so bombarded by suffering of a world event that he had no knowledge of. Um, we wanted to tell the story basically that suffering, no matter when or where it occurs, affects us all. And I have to point out the sign on the wall behind you. An injury to one is an injury to all. I mean,
Yes.
that's the theme of our film.
Yes, really.
Um, and there's many ways that that's been said sort of over the years, but we really wanted this concept to resonate, and we hope we did it justice. We took as much care as we could with the subject matter, and I think it's important that people understand. Another point about the sensitivity thing is it's a relatively new sort of sub industry of writing and editing.
Mm-hmm.
And while we were sort of approaching financing, this was all at the peak of COVID, really, there was a lot of violence towards Asians, being
Right.
depicted in the media. And this was at the top of our head. And we did not want to be the scary Asian movie, right? This was something
Mm-hmm.
we were very conscious of. And we did a lot of work on the script to make sure that we were trying to thread that needle as carefully as we could. And we hope we did it justice.
I certainly think that you did. And let me ask you, you said that this is probably the most difficult professional project you've ever been involved in, which is amazing. But was it satisfying enough that you can see yourself being involved in another film production? I mean, the Wisconsin legislature, I think, just passed some tax breaks for Wisconsin filmmakers. So you're welcome back to
I would
Badgerland.
love it
And
if they did that. I looked when we were trying to do this, and I was disheartened to see that wasn't the case. But if
we
that
had it
is,
years ago, and then the legislature and the governor back in the early 2000s got rid of it. They claimed that it wasn't paying for itself or something. And I believe the most current legislature just brought it back.
ah,
So if
great to
you are
know.
involved in or something, I don't know if it's the exact same tax program, but it's something to motivate people to make films here. So yeah, if you and Jason want to make a film in Wisconsin, that'd be wonderful.
Maybe in the summer.
It's not as hot as North Carolina.
Oh, not even close. I was just back there over the 4th, and it's just so beautiful um, in Wisconsin. But yeah, the look, the difficulties were it's just so many challenges, and the hours are so long. Um, I remember I had evaded COVID the whole time, and a week before we started filming, I got COVID,
Of course.
and so I wasn't even allowed on the first day of set. I was still testing positive. I was not allowed to be on the production of this, and it was brutal. Um, but you know, the most problem solving per minute of anything I've been involved in, it always felt like something was threatening to shut us down, right? Wet weather, and this is typical of most productions, honestly.
Yeah.
Disease, uh, you know, paperwork issues here, personnel issues there. Um, it's just a really a battle to get it done, and we did. And I got to tell you, the magic of working on a script for years, wondering what it's going to look like, and then having these actors show up and we're filming the scenes. It's a little bit like it's almost like having a kid. Like,
Yeah.
who is this person who's going to show up, and are we giving them the right name? And then when they show up and they have their name, it's kind of like they always had it.
Right.
They were always this person. This was always this movie. These characters were always these people. It's just there's a magic to that as it's coming to life that's very gratifying.
This film, Ben, is not, I wouldn't call it excessively violent. I mean, there's violence in it. As you guys were filming violent scenes, I mean, is there a mindset that we really got to have this to tell this story, or is part of it in modern day filmmaking, you got to have more spectacle? Because, so many Hollywood films, as you know now, are basically just all spectacle
Yeah,
without the level of philosophy and thought that your film has. Did you guys like talk about that, or how did you engage that topic?
absolutely. You know, one of the issues with Sight, I think, is that it doesn't fit perfectly into a genre.
Correct.
We don't have enough gore or scares to be a horror movie.
Right.
We don't have even enough science fiction necessarily to be a sci-fi movie. You know, is it time travel? There's no aliens, or laser guns or anything. It's not a Marvel movie, even though some of these concepts show up in some of those movies, and
Of
just
course.
kind of a passing way. But it's tough. I think with Sight, what we want to be known as is really at least for me, is a cult classic, right? Like, doesn't fit perfectly into any genre. It's a little strange, even a little confusing, but it's got something to say that most movies, what are they even trying to say in most movies? I don't know, other than just entertain you for 2 hours. And that's something we're like, do we need to up the scares? Do we need to up the gore so we can get that horror? If you're coming into this, there's a lot of genre people, they have expectations in a horror film of, if I'm not being grossed out or terrified every 5 minutes, then this isn't going to work. And
Yeah.
ours
The other
is
thing I the other
a
thing I
lot of
appreciated about
mundanity to it.
yeah. The other thing I appreciated about this film, Ben, is like there's no I mean, I'm not a prude by any means, but there's no just gratuitous sexuality. I mean, there's some romance type of scenes, nothing really excessive. Was that something else? I mean, did you guys think about, hey, maybe we should spice this up with more sex scenes?
Then I think it becomes exploitative.
Exactly.
And
And it's so disappointing to me how many directors and producers have no problem with that. And it's probably not as bad now thanks to the Me Too movement. But you still see this like, okay, why is this scene here?
yeah. Yeah, I think this is more a movie about relationships and the struggle of maintaining relationships.
Yes.
Um, and the hidden ways in which we sabotage them. That's what really got me again about this script of like, what if there was some supernatural, there was some trauma throughout time way to explain the ways that we hurt our own relationships. And I think we're all guilty of it. I don't know anybody who having long-term relationships are some of the hardest things you'll have to do in your life. And
Absolutely. Maybe the hardest.
yeah, and we're far from perfect at them. And it's often a mystery of like, why did I say that to that person? That was terrible. And you have to apologize. And maybe they take the apology or maybe they don't. You know, I just really dug that about this. And also the greater message of like atrocities against humanity affect us all, whether you were, whether you're in middle America, this movie could take place in Oshkosh,
Absolutely.
uh, really anywhere USA. And that was sort of the objective of like, let's take your workaday average American male and just throw him into this madness and see how he does.
Well, now that we've built it up, I said that I saw the film on Amazon Prime. It was available for rental for $4. If people want to see this film, what are some ways to see it? Amazon Prime is one. Are there other ways to see this film?
Virtually anywhere you could rent a film right now. If you're watching this months from now, that'll probably change to a subscription, what's called subscription VOD. But VOD now is everywhere from Comcast, DirecTV, Apple, Amazon, Google, YouTube, you name it. You name it, we're on it.
Okay. And you said the budget for this film was $5 million?
Right around there, yeah.
Okay. So when a film has that kind of budget, I mean, do you guys go into a panic when it's released? Like, like, oh my
We've
God,
been
we
in a
gotta,
panic the whole time, Tony.
yeah, you've been in a panic the whole time. But I mean, being that it does have Asian themes, I mean, horrific from the past.
Yeah,
Are you guys marketing this on the Asian continent also?
absolutely. As a matter of fact, we'll be in a major Asian festival. I can't say it yet because it's not public. Later this fall. We're very close as well to being able to announce another major US film festival, which is a little different, right? Usually the film festivals happen and then the movie comes out.
Mhm.
What we're finding is the people who take the time to consider this film resonate with the message and want it to get out there. Interestingly, there's a major sort of Chinese celebration happening this year in the victory over that sort of Japanese aggression that occurred
Mm.
in the 30s and 40s. And there's, I believe, two other films coming out of China specifically about Unit 731.
Wow.
There's a major celebration there in September. So we're kind of right there. And when you're dealing with the release of a film on an independent level like this, Tony, what you're dealing with is we're only in the US right now.
Hmm.
So people who are renting us, and thank you very much, please tell everyone else to rent it. That starts bringing the money back a little bit. But
Right.
then as you go through, for example, with our distributor at Blue Fox Entertainment, they will sell it territory by territory across Europe, across Asia, Australia, South America, etc. And through each of those sales, it starts coming back, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Hey, let's go back a little bit and talk about your public relations career, right? You said you obviously had a long, successful career in public relations. You're not done with PR, I assume, right?
No, still working with certain clients and businesses today.
Okay, can you just give me like a couple of your what you consider to be a few of your major highlights as a PR professional over the years?
Well, sure. Um, Boy, it's interesting putting stories together for with clients and businesses, authors, etc. for newspapers, television, Um, One of my highlights I always um, go back to is I had a ophthalmologist client in Beverly Hills who had developed a very specific procedure for a disease called keratoconus. And we went on a daytime TV show with I believe she was a 13-year-old girl from the UP of Michigan who was on her way to becoming legally blind from this disease.
Mm,
We flew her out here with her grandmother, and in the span of about 2 days, we cured her blindness on national television.
that's amazing.
It was a lot of tears, right? But to be able to change somebody's life,
Oh,
and at the same time, that this message of awareness of that there was a standard of care for this disease that was not great. There was an innovation in the approach to handling the disease, and we did a great job with not only with that story but others of letting people know that they could get this taken care of. So
yeah.
things like that were great. You mentioned NASA before. What
Yeah.
that was a we worked on a campaign with them where they were doing this tour for the International Space Station, which was a lot of fun. We basically brought them into LA and Southern California, and they did this tour, and we did a lot of morning news and a lot of kids talking to astronauts up at the space station. Um, you know, it's NASA. It's great.
You know what I'm impressed by, Ben, as I listen to you, so many people, when they hear public relations, they think spin, they think hyperbole, they think BS.
Yeah,
You,
there's a
you
lot of
seem,
that.
yeah, but you seem to have a sense of ethics about what you're doing. Um, I want to think that that's the norm in public relations.
It's
I've always
not.
had, it's not. So how did Ben Cooke get this way?
I I've I don't know. For better or for worse, I value integrity, and it's cost me business and brought me business. So
You know,
it's
that's what I always tell students, right? If you're a person of integrity, you're going to lose some, but so what? You're going to attract some high quality folks also. So I'm so thrilled to hear you say that.
and the thinking of storytelling. Tony, I had a little bit of a philosophical shift in all of this when I took the movie on. I had to like do some mental gymnastics to be like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
Why should I even be here doing this? And for years, to me, I had sort of this philosophy of everything is sales. Whether it's you and me talking, whether it's my wife and I trying to decide what's for dinner, or you're speaking with a client, anything, your children, like you're trying to persuade somebody to do something, right?
Yeah.
And I shifted that into, and I don't know, I'm still workshopping a little bit, but everything is storytelling. And whoever tells the best story gets the sale, whether it's an election, whether it's a shoe, whether it's a university,
Yes.
right? If you've got a better story, you're going to get that person to join with you.
Hmm.
And figuring out how to tell better stories, I think, is and the way to connect with people through story. There's something about our nature that we will almost kill ourselves in the pursuit of telling a good story. I can tell you that as a film producer.
Well, I just got to say, Ben, I just, again, I don't speak to a lot of PR professionals,
Yeah.
but I find your approach really refreshing
Well,
and and
well,
something that I think young people coming up in that system, I really think ought to be guided by that value system that you're throwing out there, right? Because as you've probably seen so many people in the PR field, right? When they're just obsessed with making the sale by
Mhm.
any means necessary, right? There comes a point where you literally cannot look at yourself in the mirror, right?
it
And I
it
mean,
can
yeah,
publicity is in every depiction in mass media, whether it's movies or books or whatever, is typically this smarmy spinster type person trying to angle this and that. My some of my best compliments with my clients have been as more of a fitness trainer for their business, right? Of like, how
yeah.
do I get my company into a newsworthy state, which is often an exercise, and providing value to audience, right? That's how you win, in my estimation, with publicity, especially if you're fighting for things nobody's ever heard of, right? We're all putting press releases and email pitches and sending them to hundreds of journalists. You get rejected constantly, and it takes a thick skin, but how do you package something together that is of value for the person you're presenting it to?
Do
and
you
and
think that
that that's
that old cable show Mad Men, which of course took place in the 1960s, right?
Yeah.
Was that like a completely blown up version of PR, or was there a lot of accuracy in that? And I don't mean
Well, I
just in
think
the
in
60s, right? Like even today.
advertising, I think it's quite different today. But I love that show, and it was just it's been on my TV recently. Is the character in particular of Don Draper
Yeah.
has a knack for figuring out how to tap into this emotion. Like, some of the best parts of that show to me are when they're sitting in these rooms with their clients,
Yes.
and he's just like blowing them away, right? Because he's telling a story about their product, their place, whatever it is, that is like sparking this magic in their brains.
Yeah.
And that's the magic of that type of storytelling. And yeah, what a great show. I should point out as well, in my when I was running a PR firm with my partner, this is when I met my wife. And it was one of these kind of working relationships that took a few years to really become inevitable.
Hmm.
And now she is the head of communications for Jeopardy, the game show Jeopardy.
Amazing.
So her and I together have, it's very helpful when your spouse does the same thing. You can kind of swap war stories over dinner or over coffee in the morning. But she's been on this amazing journey as well in communications and PR, with something that people really cherish and love.
Yeah.
We come at it very differently, where it's like everyone wants what she has, right? Everyone wants to talk about Jeopardy or meet Ken Jennings or whatever it is, Alex Trebek back in the day. And for me, I'm like, here's this thing you've never heard of. Please write about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It's great.
Begging and fighting for whatever we can get.
Well,
So
let's go way back to your UW Oshkosh days. When you think back now, you were here from say 96 to 2000.
95, 2000. Yeah, it was like a 4.5 year jaunt there.
All right. Was radio, TV, film your initial major, or did you get to it somehow?
Oh no, I was clearing what I wanted. As a matter of fact, I no offense, but I did not want to go to Oshkosh. I had family there. I'm 18. I want to go to a big city and live it up. So I wanted to go to Madison, Minneapolis, but I got to tell you, none of those schools cut it. We went, my dad and I,
Wow.
we toured all of them, and by and large, and I got accepted to all those schools, but I was so impressed with Oshkosh and the facilities, particularly for film, um, that it was just a no brainer. It was just like, all right, I'm going to Oshkosh.
Wow. And you worked closely with Doug Heil?
Yes, I was president of Film Society in '99. I
Mhm.
want to say, and tried to get to work shooting on film cameras. They probably don't even have those anymore. Almost immediately, and then to because I wanted to be, a filmmaker and storyteller in this way, I decided to minor in psych. I think I was one credit away from a double major, actually. I've often thought about coming back and grabbing that credit just for posterity, but um, also really helped me understanding the human brain, how we think,
Yeah.
dealing with people. So valuable.
Oh, so overall, you had a very positive experience at the UW Oshkosh campus.
Absolutely, I did. I, you know, think back on it fondly, and it was a great place to learn. I met people there. I'm still in contact with today. It's been a real treat to see how the college has grown and evolved over the years since then, and even folks out here when I in the industry working with different folks talking about the access to resources we had in the film program and the TV and radio um, programs, they're amazed, right? Because
Yeah.
it's pretty special.
Was it a tough adjustment living in the, are you still live in Los Angeles?
Yes, yes.
Was it a tough, you're a Midwestern guy. Was Los Angeles a big culture shock for you?
It was a nightmare.
I love your honesty.
the
What
first
was it?
the
What made
first
it
year and a
nightmarish?
half, Tony, I could not stand it out here. It is so different and it's so big. It is such an expanse
Was
of.
it the traffic? Was it the smog? Was it the insurance rate? Like what was it?
It's just such an overwhelming amount of everything. People, cars, uh uncertainty, just like how, yeah, it was, but
What got you
after
through in
that,
the what got you through in those early days, Ben? Because I'm sure there probably were many times where you said, you know what, I'm going back to Wisconsin.
yeah, well,
What
eventually,
kept you?
eventually, um, were members of my family actually who had placed bets about how long I would last. And here I am 25 years later.
Oh, I love it.
um, those first years were tough. I mean, you're homesick. Everyone you love and care about is 1,000, 2,000 miles away.
Yeah.
And you're just trying to chisel out a life from virtually nothing. And I always say that first year and a half because it was after then I think I found really like my first apartment and my first group of friends. It was just more of a consistency and relationships that you could have out here
Hmm.
that and the success started coming along and it just became much easier. You're out of like survival and panic mode and you're into okay, we're going somewhere, we're doing something interesting. You have a little bit of gratitude about the things that you have been able to achieve. I always felt that was very important, especially in moments of high stress, of just like taking
Yeah.
a step back and being like appreciative of where you've come from and what you've
Oh,
been able
yeah.
to
We
accomplish.
have a number of students that, think they might want to get into public relations. As a practical matter, does a young person coming up have to be in LA, New York, Chicago? Is it possible to be successful in PR in a smaller market area?
I would say now more than ever, certainly sort of COVID really changed everything. Um, you don't have a lot of when I was doing this in the 2000s and 2010s, there was a lot of daytime television. There's not as
Hmm.
much of that anymore. Um, a lot of things that clients do are just like this. You can do this anywhere as long as you've got decent broadband.
Yeah.
Um, I've got a buddy of mine I went to high school with up in Wapaka, Wisconsin, which is just about 45 minutes north of you there.
Yep.
He's got a pretty decent music industry job, and he lives in technically rural Wisconsin, where I was even surprised they had internet at all. And does very well, with the internet today and the access, which didn't exist, in the 90s or 2000s like it does now. You can work anywhere. As a matter of fact, we've often discussed, like, I could do what I do in Oshkosh and not have to deal with the big cityness of all of this. My wife is very much married to her job for, and she should be, but I could do this anywhere.
Do you have a fear, Ben, that artificial intelligence is going to have a very negative impact on the PR industry?
Um,
Chat GPT, write me an ad about
well,
orange juice.
my concern is that there's just going to be less and less opportunities for editorial, because if there's no editor to pitch at a website and they're just writing articles on AI based on whatever Google Trends is telling them to write about today, there's unless you can find a way to get into that trend, then it's a little bit tougher. It's interesting because there's fewer opportunities and there's more opportunities, right? Like,
Paradox of our time, right?
yeah, like the Oshkosh Northwestern is a shadow of what it used to be 20 years ago,
Yes.
but now there's 100 podcasts we can be on, right? There's ways on social media that we can get our messages out there. It's becoming Communication tools are becoming more ubiquitous, and we have
Yes.
the power and control. It used to be, well, we need a blog on our website in order to communicate our message. Why not have a podcast? Right, because now we can reach out and connect with other people, to help grow your audience that way. So it's a little bit less, how do I get in the New York Times, which is still very important, and more of, how do we get our story and our message out there using the modern tools we have today.
Well, let me close on this, Ben. If we have students here that are interested in film, PR, or any other thing that you've been so successful at, is it okay for me to give them your email address and contact info?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I will do that. And I can't speak for everyone on this campus, Ben, but we're so proud of what you've done, and I've just been inspired listening to your approach to what you do.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, your thoughtfulness about storytelling, and I could tell that you have a lot of concern for the clients that you work with, which is just a great approach to any occupation. I like to think that as teachers, that's how we should be. So, thank you so much for doing this, and I hope you get to make a film in Wisconsin.
Me too. That would be great.
All right, take care.
All right. Thanks so much.